In a whopping turnaround of events, Conor McGregor unretires through a Facebook post, and we have the post here that we will talk about before we get into the details surrounding UFC 200 and whether or not the Irishman will make a return to the card. Let's take a look. So this is his post through Facebook, and it was very in-depth, it was from the heart, and it cleared up any of the kind of different theories that were going around there. It was due to the conflict between his promotions. So I'm just trying to do my job and fight here. I'm not going to read it word for word. I'm sure many people have seen it. Some of the significant points I like in here is sitting in a car on the way to some dump in Connecticut or somewhere to speak to Tim and Suzie on the Nobody Gives a Fuck morning show that did not get me this life. You could come on TOT Sports and talk to the Jason and Francis, and everyone gives a fuck morning show.
I mean, you're Suzie. I'll be Tim.
All right, I'm Suzie. Cool. I thought I was Jeannie.
And welcome to Nobody Gives a Fuck in the Morning.
That's not a bad show name, did I? So he's he's saying that this life did not come to him based on these promotions. It came from working hard. So he said, but I need to focus on me now. I'm coming for my revenge here. Next card. I will not do this if I am back on the road handing out flyers again. I will always play the game and play it better than anybody. But just for this one, where I'm coming off a loss, I ask for some leeway where I can just train and focus. I did not shut down all media requests. I simply wanted a slight adjustment. But I was denied. There had been $10 million allocated for the promotion of this event. Is what they told me. So as a gesture of goodwill, I went and not only saved that $10 million in promotion money, I then went and tripled it for them, and all with one tweet. Keep that 10 mil to promote the other bums that need it. My shows are good. I must isolate myself now. I'm facing a taller, longer, and heavier man. I need to prepare correctly this time. And I will just go right through it at the end. But he says, I feel like the $400 million I have generated for the company in my last 3 events, all inside 8 months, is enough to get me this slight leeway. I'm still ready to go for UFC 200. I will offer, like I already did, to fly to New York for the big press conference that was scheduled, and then I will go back into training with no distractions. If this is not enough, blah, 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 blah. For the record also, for the USADA and for the UFC and my contract stipulations, I am not retired. Dun, dun, dun.
A lot to take in with the post. First thing I'm addressing, which is all too important. Whether or not Joao Carvalho, I think that's how you pronounce it, death had any effect on him, he has not stated, he has not discussed, he has not mentioned. So those who want to, claim that it had something to do with it, we don't know. Nobody knows. No media outlet knows. But from the Facebook post, from the facts that we have and are given to us,
you can make a calculated risk that it's not
involved. Didn't mention it had to do with money, Dana White, and promotions. Yeah. That's the first thing that needs to be cleared with this. Secondly, somewhat right, somewhat wrong in his Facebook post. Yes, he has tripled the revenue of, not totally revenue of UFC, but he puts on a good show, and we know all of that, right? But the one thing I have to give Dana White credit for is the fact that he's not treating Conor McGregor any differently than any other of the UFC stars. So, yeah, that means you're coming off a loss, you wanted some leeway, but why would you get leeway when all other fighters have suffered losses? Yeah. All other fighters have been through a loss before. All other fighters don't get the leeway to come out for the 3 days and be distracted, as you put it, for the press conference, yeah. Right? So whether or not he fights at UFC 200 is now the big question, because Dana White, it's kind of like ball was in Dana White's court. Then ball was in Conor McGregor's court, and now it's back to Dana White, right? Because Dana White has an option to hold his ground, make a statement to the UFC and all the fighters, and say, fuck off, McGregor. Yeah. You're not fighting Diaz. You're not fighting at UFC 200. We can do this without you for now, because he's going to fight again. We just don't know when. Or he could see the green, see the cash, and go, well, after all of this publicity, everything that happened, hate, love, whatever your side of McGregor, now everybody's going to tune into the fight. Yeah. Except, technically, me. Because I said, I'm going to stick to my word. I won't watch McGregor fight anymore. When it comes to that one specific clip about his fight, I won't be tuning in.
So, Dana White, it was a little flip-floppy, because he said to Colin Coward that if he called him and said that we were ready to sort this out, he would go ahead and put him into the card, or he'd consider putting him into the card. And then I think it was another MMA source that ran it through an interview. He said the window's closing very fast. I think it's probably already closed, so you might have missed that opportunity. And that is the main purpose of the clip, is does McGregor now put himself in the running for this card? I think he already did with that post, but does Dana White consider it? And again, if Dana White had a history of being such a moral man who stuck up for the rights of each fighter and stood by people, then we'd be like, hell no. Conor McGregor is not going to fight at this. You stick by your word, Dana. But he has been a man that loves the green. And not the same green that Nick Diaz likes. The green that he just...
Or Nate Diaz.
Or Nate Diaz. Or most people, for that instance.
Or anybody 2 days ago.
Yeah. Exactly. People still feeling the effects from 2 days ago. But he likes the cash that comes in. And he likes to promote this sport, which is, again, you have to think about the sport as a whole. It's ever-growing. This only enhances its growth, I think. And the question, another question, which I'm going to address through the comments, by the way. And before we get to that, I love the comments. It's so funny. And it's great. You guys keep us going. But remember when I defended Conor McGregor a couple of months back? And I was just like, you're such a fucking McGregor fanboy. See past the green in your eyes. And then it just switches so quick. When all I said was I didn't appreciate his tweet. It's like, you don't even have a clue about Conor. You don't know about all this stuff. I'm like, oh my God. I stuck up for this guy more than anyone when it came to the whole... Even after he lost, I still managed to turn a clip around to a McGregor apologist clip. And like, he handled it well. It's just so funny. Anyway, but the question is this just a whole big theatricality? Is this all part of the promotion? Is this all to gain even more viewership? Is it part of the drama, the reality TV series, which has now become the Ultimate Fighting Champion? Because, Jason...
Oh, it's a word.
Theatricality?
Yeah.
Of course it's a word.
Yeah, no, fantastic.
I'm a walking dictionary.
I didn't know that.
But what's your thoughts on that? Do you think this could all... I mean, McGregor stated in his own thing, I get you that from one tweet. That world is talking about this, so is it just added promotion?
What I'm confused about is, like, you want to make the big bucks. Obviously, that's a part of it. I get that. But without all of that promotion, without that one tweet, and without those press conferences that are captivating and fun to watch, you don't make as much money. Let's just take it from the other side. Let's say he did none of that. Let's say he wasn't this, I want to say, iconic figure in the UFC. Let's say he was just a fighter. I don't mean to throw Frankie Edgar under the bus, but let's say he was more calm, laid back, and not as controversial with his statements like Frankie Edgar is. You wouldn't be making nearly the amount of money, no matter how much you won.
Yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword. For Conor McGregor, you have to promote the way you did, and once you laid the groundwork for how you're going to do your promotions, you can't just decide, and again, this is such a short amount of time, like 8 months you're talking about his rise from unknown to superstardom, a little more, about 12 months, I believe is the exact year, number, about a year. But again, it's a double-edged sword because you can't do it for a year and then all of a sudden, decide after you lost, after you tapped out, that now you want to start taking, I don't want to say this either, training more seriously than you have before. I think he's always taken training extremely seriously. I think every fighter takes training seriously. But when you say these things in that Facebook post, what I'm taking this from, you make it sound like, in general, that you don't want to be distracted now because you lost, which is fair, but that doesn't mean you get to go around everybody else and not show up for the same things that you signed your name on the dotted line for.
And you switch it around, right? And you think, what would happen if Conor McGregor won the fight? Nate Diaz, who was ill-prepared for that fight to start with, he refused to come to the press conference if it was a rematch.
And I don't think it's a story.
I think it's not a story. I think it's a quick action, as Dana White would be like, you're out, and you're not even considered to come back. And that's the bias right there, because Nate Diaz historically has been shunned by UFC, and his brother as well, is that Dana White would not stand for it as much. Like, he wouldn't even allow for the leeway, I don't think. And I think that's a fair statement. I think that if it was switched, Conor McGregor beat Nate Diaz, and Nate Diaz was offered a rematch because it was an epic fight, and Nate Diaz turned around and went, you know what?
I'm retiring.
Fuck you, motherfuckers. I wasn't ready for that last fight, so I'm not coming to jump through any of your hoops. I'll turn up on the day of the press conference, and I'll turn up on the fight because I'm ready to fight him this time without it. Dana White would be like, don't let that fucking handle hit you on the way out, mate, because I'm bringing someone else in who's going to fight McGregor. You don't get to tell me what to do. And that's the harsh reality. That as much as I love Conor McGregor, and I do understand his points here, because he has been the face of this competition. He has been the face of this sport in terms of its growth overseas. I talked about this, how he grabs in an audience which is almost football-like for me. It's like a loyal audience that looks at him as a religion. They follow him step by step, and he has the right to maybe make certain demands, but it comes down to whether or not those demands are just as a result of this recent fight. Even if McGregor won, I don't think these demands would have ever come into play again, because they only come into play when McGregor was literally checked. Like, he had to check and see how he was handling himself. But again, when you can't just go back and erase all this and erase all this and all this, like when he was enjoying being the money of the UFC. So in order to be the money of the UFC, you have to continue to play the promotional card. You have to continue to adapt to what they want you to do in order to promote the fight. And that's, I honestly, I don't know if I'm just really, really stubborn and arrogant, which I probably am, but I just can't see any argument aside from that. I just can't understand. Like, I can understand you support McGregor and you would love to stand up for him more than anything else, but you got to be realistic. You got to be realistic and understanding that just because you may be the ultimate best, and he's not at the moment, but you want to get back to that stage, is that this all comes part and parcel with the money you bring in. Like, people need to understand that it's all part of the promotion and it's part of the business. So
that's how business works.
But again, we love. Do we love the comment? We love to hear the comments.
Look, we've been through, what is it, 2.5 years of doing this. Like, commenters, you're free to say whatever you want. We'll never ban you from the channel for what you say.
Never.
We'll never ban a comment section. We know we've seen other YouTube channels do that. We're not going to lie to you and say it never digs at us. Sometimes it does. But
sometimes it fucking hurts.
Sometimes Francis cries, sometimes he doesn't, but that's what we're here for. You're free to say what you want. We love every comment for what it's worth. We read into all of them. And we do appreciate the support from when it comes and when it does come. So please continue to comment, continue to share the video, continue to call me a Jew and Francis a Scot. Make sure you comment below, though, on this video. And if you think Conor McGregor will be fighting at UFC 200, and what does Dana White do in this situation? At Francis Maxwell on Twitter.
Francis_Maxwell.
Something like that. At Francis Maxwell Host. Because I messed yours up, I won't plug mine. At TYT Sports.
You know what this is? Thick skin.
You say the wash
That's
that
thick
I have?
skin.
Oh, I'm
thick.
thin. No, I'm white. Look how white I am.